All right, everybody, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon with the EnviroPod Canadian Research and Innovation webinar. We're very pleased that we're able to share some exciting information with you. EnviroPod is coming off of its third year now in the marketplace, and we are not sitting on our hands. There's lots of new things happening. And we've had exciting projects from coast to coast, from installations of EnviroBasin rather, in Halifax and all over the GTA, and even on Vancouver Island. There's viable projects on the west coast of BC and all over the GTA and in southwestern Ontario and Windsor and London. So we've had an exciting time and talked to hundreds of different engineers and municipalities. And we have some new exciting products and some new innovative thinking that's gone into the EnviroBasin to make it even better for the coming year. And that's why Mike Hanna, who is our Director of Engineering, Technical Director at EnviroPod, is going to walk us through that. And Mike has been at this for a long time, over 30 years, and he drives the passion here at EnviroPod for stormwater. So without anything else, we'll just hand the meeting over to Mike, and we look forward to his comments.
Thanks, Barry. I'll just share my screen. And here we go. Everyone can see that all good? Cool. All right. So, yes, it's been a big year at EnviroPod and EnviroPod Canada. So we are going to run through today two field studies that we've carried out in the GTA. We're also going to talk about a few new product upgrades as we continue to install our products across Canada. We are constantly improving it with different conditions we're experiencing and different sort of stormwater infrastructure. We're also going to introduce a couple of new configurations for the EnviroBasin, as well as a new product, TrenchPod. Briefly, before I do that, I'll just give a bit of an introduction to who EnviroPod is for those on the call that don't know about us, and our two main products, LittleTrap and EnviroBasin. So who's EnviroPod? So we were originally incorporated in 1996 in New Zealand. We're part of a global group called Stormwater 360 that has a range of stormwater management solutions that both green infrastructure, rain gardens, green roofs, infiltration systems, as well as other more traditional stormwater treatment devices like underground filters, hydrodynamic separators, and retention systems. EnviroPod was really born out of implementing these solutions across different land uses. We soon realized that green infrastructure was really effective, but unfortunately excessive loads of coarse sediment and trash and debris would often cause these systems to prematurely fail and require a lot of maintenance. So we've developed EnviroPod to take our technology, our pre-treatment technologies, to the world, and we now have partners in Australia, Canada, and the USA, and we've over 65,000 EnviroPods or LittleTraps installed worldwide. In Canada, we've been here since 2017 when we installed our first demonstration LittleTraps. EnviroPod Canada, which is a subsidiary of EnviroPod International, was established in 2018. In 2019, we won the Canadian Water Next Award for Best Stormwater Innovation with the LittleTrap. In 2020, the LittleTrap actually got full trash capture certified in California. California is the only jurisdiction that regulates trash management. In 2021, EnviroBasin, which is the next evolution of our treatment devices, received a Canadian ETV verification, and in 23 we installed our first EnviroBasin project at the City of London. Continuing on with our research and development of these pre-treatment technologies, we commenced a field trial with the University of Western Ontario in 2024, and we're using that field trial to get a Washington ecology approval. Washington is the leading field trial stormwater product protocol in the world, and it requires field trials. To date, we've installed over 3,000 litter traps and EnviroBasins across Canada, so we're well and truly here now. So our two main products, the litter trap and the EnviroBasin. They look very similar, but I'll explain the differences now. So the litter trap was originally developed as a catch basin insert. It's a trash screen. It has a 5mm screen that captures pretty much everything above 5mm. The litter trap was designed to be adjustable and flexible because no two catch basins are the same. In Ontario, they're very consistent, but we wanted to make a global product that would tackle the world problem of plastic oceans. And so the litter trap is adjustable and flexible system that can be able to fit any catch basin. On the other side is the EnviroBasin. Now, the EnviroBasin we're calling a water quality inlet. When we first came to Canada and started marketing the litter trap, everyone thought it was a great idea. But in Canada, there's no regulations around trash capture. So we soon realized for us to have our place in the market, we needed to be able to capture sediment as well as trash. So this is when we developed the EnviroBasin. In lab testing with the litter trap and a catch basin, we realized if we added a few extra flow modifying components to the system in the catch basin sump or in the basket, we could actually increase the capture of sediment in the sump. And so we, after conducting our ETV testing, we launched the EnviroBasin, which is not an insert, it's a water quality inlet. It's the whole catch basin. And I'll explain more about these features as we get through the presentation. To start, though, I thought I'd run through our field testing that we've been undertaking with the University of Western Ontario and two master's students, Aidan Haskell and Melanie Blackburn. This is their presentation from the Turnal this year, and we're hoping it'll be an updated version will be in source to stream coming in March. But just briefly, I'll just talk about why pre-treatment devices are important. Stormwater management requires a suite of solutions. You know, everything from rain gardens, wet ponds, permeable pavers, underground filters, underground infiltration systems. These all manage both the quality and the quantity of the water of stormwater runoff. Most of the stormwater that ends up in these systems goes through a reticulated system, and at the start of that system is a catch basin where we install the EnviroBasin or the litter trap. An alternative pre-treatment devices are OGS systems, but however, this is further down from the catch basin and the water has to be piped to them. So the EnviroBasin is really an alternative to an OGS system. So here's the EnviroBasin. Here's some pictures of EnviroBasins being installed in our first project in London. And here's one in the field before it's finished stabilizing and gravel around the site. So here's how the EnviroBasin works. A typical car park with a catch basin in it. What the EnviroBasin comes with is a precast catch basin. It's slightly modified. The award-winning litter trap is part of the EnviroBasin, but we add this energy dissipator and the outlet baffle. Those two factors are really key in catching sediment. So water comes into the device in a rainfall event, and trash and debris and leaves all get captured in the basket. And then because of these flow modifying components, the sump actually is enhanced to capture the finer sediment. Oops, sorry. And then that flows downstream to an infiltration system or a filter or a wetland or a rain garden. So I did explain this energy dissipation, and an animation is one thing, but to show you what it looks like in real life, here's some video from our lab. The picture on the left is a normal catch basin and the way that water comes in. And you can see the huge amount of turbulence. Let me get a laser pointer. Sorry. You see the huge amount of turbulence that's created from water falling, 1.5, 2 meters into the sump. When we put a modified litter trap with the energy deflector in the bottom, we find that the turbulence is greatly reduced by spreading the water across the whole surface area of the sump, and that enhances the capture of sediment in the sump. The outlet baffle also helps to make the flow out of the catch bit more laminar and aid in settling. So the research gaps that the university was trying to help us solve was that no pre-treatment studies of catch basin inserts or OGSs really focused on either laboratory or field testing. None of them really do both. And EnviroBasin, well, it's been around. It's never really been tested for its performance in the northern climate. It's quite different in Canada with gritting and salting during the winter and intense summer storms, and then you have fall with huge organic loading. So we really wanted to see how it would work through the seasons. And most field studies on pretreatment device are pretty much more quantitative than rather qualitative. They tend to just look at how much mass is being caught, not measuring the flow in and the contaminants in and the contaminants out, or even the changes in particle size as the sediment comes in and the sediment comes out. So this is what we were trying to solve with this 2-year study at Western University. So the preliminary objectives was to take our Canadian ETV testing results and compare it to the field results, both comparing it in its efficiency in removing TSS, as well as at what particle size range is the device removing. We also wanted to look at it across seasonal variations. So here's our setup for our Canadian ETV, where we're certified, and you can find more information on this on the Canadian ETV website. But what it was in the lab, there was a flume. We made a catch basin and put a litter trap with the extra bits in. Sorry, the students didn't draw them all in here. And we loaded sediment onto the floor of the streetscape, and it would flow into the catch basin and through the EnviroBasin. At each test, we would test each test at starting at 1/4 litre a second and at different flow rates up into 8.5 litres a second. And at each test, we would put 11 kg of sediment in and then see how many kgs of sediment was left in the device. So here's the results from the lab tests. The grey is how much, 4 kg, sorry, was injected, and how much was captured in the basket and how much was captured in the sump. What we found, and the red line, is the overall efficiency at that flow rate. We're listing the flow rate here as litres per second, but we also listed at surface loading rate. That is the flow over the area of the sump where we capture the fines. This is a requirement of the Canadian ETV testing, that you test at certain set surface loading rates, not really flow rates. This allows you to scale the device. If you have a bigger catch basin, we will have a bigger litres per second flow rate. There are some rules. Here's some more pictures of the testing. Here's the sediment being injected, and here's the test catch basin. But you can definitely see after about 1.2 litres a second, we're dropping away. We continue to drop away. And the goal is to get 50% over the year's rainfall. Now, the great thing about the EnviroBasin is that the catchment area feeding to it is really small. We really generate flows greater than 1.2 litres a second. In fact, only 10% of the flows, or even less, is over that in a typical annual year. We also noted that the particle size distribution also followed the same pattern. So this is different particle sizes in each range, and also at different flow rates with the different colors. You can see as we move higher flow rates, all the particle sizes tend to drop off in its efficiency. And to get 50% removal, we're really targeting above a 75 micron particle to get 50% removal in. So that was the field testing that we did a few years ago. Now, Western had set up with Western and EnviroPod and the City of London, set up the site. Along here is Dingman Drive, and this is a brand new big Costco. Dingman Drive was upgraded to handle the Costco. No, not really, but was upgraded as a major arterial around the City of London. And our test site is over here on the entrance over here. It's high traffic loading. It's a brand new site too, which is going to be interesting to see how it changes over time. We're going to intend to monitor this for many years. So here's our test setup. We have a rain gauge to measure local rainfall. We have our automatic water samplers in this box. There's a trench drain to capture the water flowing off the road. As you can appreciate, a EnviroBasin is right at the surface. It's very difficult to capture all the flow entering it and measure the flow and get a representative sample. So we use this trench drain to collect and concentrate the flow so we can get a sample. There's also another catch basin after it as a bypass, because that goes to the infiltration swale on the left. So here's the setup in detail. The lockbox with the samplers, the trench drain with the sample collector and an area velocity meter. We had a V-notch weir before it falls into the EnviroBasin. This is going very fast. It'll loop, will come back. And here's the V-notch weir. And we collect samples before and then also are collecting samples in this catch basin as well. So we're measuring before and after the EnviroBasin. So this is at the time of the writing of this report, the first as master student, we had a lot of trouble actually establishing the site. If you've ever done field sampling, it's very challenging to get the site set up. But once you get the site set up, you start to get more storms. So in order to help the first master's student, we did some stimulated storms, as well as we grabbed some natural storms. And we really want to compare the efficiency and the particle size from these real-life field storms with what we're seeing in the lab. So this is how we did the simulated events. We got a ICB, and we ran water through the device down the road, down the curb. It was pretty dirty here with these simulated storms, but it gave us a good idea of what particles were being mobilized and what the particles the EnviroBasin could capture. Here's the natural events that we sampled or analyzed for this report. You can see this is the flow in the storm, and this is where we took subsamples. You can see we take lots of samples through the storm because we want our concentration to be representative. We are going up with these two storms were great. These because they were around the 1 to 2 liters a second, where we achieved 50% removal. So we really wanted to see how that device is performing under 2.5 liters a second, because that means we would treat nearly most of the runoff in a year. To analyze the data, we were using two metrics for sediment. We were using suspended solids concentration as well as total suspended solids. TSS is more of a wastewater measure. SSC is more of a stormwater measure, but some of the data is in either or, so we measured both. We also wanted to look at the particle sizes, so we would composite the samples and put them through sieves, so we could look at how many of the particles were above 500, above 200 micron, 75 micron, 20 micron, etc. So we can characterize what the runoff looked like, because the EnviroBasin is a settling device, so the size of the particle will influence its performance. The fine material you can't really sieve, so we were using laser diffraction for the really fine particles that got through. Now here's the comparison of the results. The lab results, the ET results are with the red surround, the simulated tests are with the blue surround, and the natural tests are with the green surround. The bars measure the flow rate, and the red line is the efficiency. And you can see at the low flow rate in the lab, yes, we got about 64%. The next simulated event at close to 0.4 liters a second, we're at 50%. The next lab test we'd done was at 55% at half a liter a second. Simulated event at 6, as you can see, at 60%, a natural event at 60%, and then a larger over 1.1 litre a second, it dropped slightly to below 50%. So this is really consistent. Very rarely do field results add up to lab results, but we're really pleased to see the device is performing the same in the field as in the lab. And when we look at the particle size distribution, we see the same pattern. Now, this is a bit of a heavy graph to look at with all the colors, but it's showing the lab tests, the ETV lab tests, the simulated lab tests, and the natural lab tests. And we're generally seeing we're dropping below 50% removal at the 75 micron stage. Sometimes we capture a bit of a lower 50 micron, and there's a bit of noise down in the low end of the system because these fine particles often clump together and stick together as they go through. And when we agitate them and sieve them, we find that finer particles sometimes broke off. So we often see removal in the fine particles, but it's very variable. For the long-term seasonal variations, obviously in winter there's a lot of gritting. Fall, as I said, has a lot of leaves, intense summer rains. So we weren't sure how the concentrations would change and also how the particle size might change. So this is very preliminary. Melanie, who's the second master's student, is going to be really looking at this. She's also going to be looking at other contaminants over this year. But what we've seen, which was a little bit counterintuitive, we found the runoff was really fine in spring. Now, we missed the first rains of spring because of sampler challenges. So we might have missed a big slug of all the grit and everything came off. But typically they're not that strong at the start of spring. And rain on snow creates a different sort of runoff event. And often very fine particles are coming out of the rain on snow. When we hit the summer storms, we saw a real flip in the particle size distribution with a lot more coarser material. However, we found that the EnviroBasin consistently removed over 75 micron. That was really our target point. That's where we're getting optimum removal, which is great because it's a pre-treatment device. We'll leave the downstream devices to handle the fines, and this stops the bulk of the load coming through into the device, reducing maintenance costs. A couple of extra events here. The September 4 event was a really big, intense event, went up to over 8 litres a second and actually had a very high concentration, and we got 98% removal, but the concentration was thousands of milligrams per litre. So a little bit outside the realms of the study, but really good to see a high removal when the device really needed to, when there's a big slug of sediment coming in. So that just concludes their study. Hopefully we're in source to stream next year and there'll be an update on that. Now, introducing the first innovation or the first new configuration. And this is what we're calling EnviroBasin Air. We've had a lot of inquiries over the last few years to put EnviroBasin or supply EnviroBasin as catch basin manholes. Unfortunately, there's a few challenges. If you recall the video where the magic happens inside the device and the sump here and the reduction of turbulence, if we have water flowing in and water flowing down, we have a higher flow rate for the surface loading calculation. So we really have to keep our treatment zone separate from the through flow. And catch basin manholes, which are used predominantly on private sites, are a cost-saving method for the contractor and the developer, where you have the manhole having two functions. That's a connection for the two stormwater lines, as well as it's a grated inlet as well. So we developed the EnviroBasin Air that will sit inside a catch basin manhole. That's just what I've just explained. But it actually it can be retrofitted and put into existing catch basin manholes, or it can be put in new builds. So how it works is there's the steel flange here, or everything in the EnviroBasin Air is made out of stainless steel. There's this flange at the top that sits there, and then it's actually got a stainless steel catch basin sitting suspended in the manhole. And then we drop a standard EnviroBasin a litter trap basket in the top. And it also has an integrated outlet baffle. You can see it there, which has led to another innovation we're going to talk about, a low profile outlet baffle. So here it is. It sits under the grate and frame. The grate and frame goes up. If you wanted to retrofit it, you would have to rip the grate and frame off, which it's a little bit of construction, but it's not as bad as ripping off the top cap. And so it can be in spring maintenance, if the catch basin gets damaged or anything, it's quite easy to take the seal back, rip off the grate, and place the EnviroBasin Air under. We also have got a double configuration for larger manholes, and we've run a bit of CFD on this to understand what our bypass rates are. So we don't want to restrict the manhole at all. The whole system can be removed for access, and you can still climb into the manhole without taking that grate and frame in as well. We wanted to make sure that we maintained access to the manhole because it's critical. So this is a real innovation. We see a lot of them. It is going to be have its place. It also means we can suspend EnviroBasin from bridge decks as well. And so it's a great new configuration for EnviroBasin. Now, just talking about these upgrades are to both litter trap and EnviroBasin. We've also found in our installs across North America that some sites, industrial sites, or newly constructed sites can have a lot of sediment. We often see in industrial sites gravel yards with just tons of gravel coming into the catch basin. And because if it's a new build, there isn't really that need for the flexibility in the litter trap with the adjustable flexible seals. So we've come up with a stainless steel rigid solution for the filter box, and it integrates the seals. And we're still using the litter trap basket because that's lightweight and strong, and so the system can still be made by hand. Now, this is an optional for litter trap, but all EnviroBasins in the future will be installed coming March. Will be installed with stainless steel filter boxes, just because we find they often go in early in the construction phase and they can take a real hammering. Also, the low profile outlet baffle you saw in the previous one, there was it's a small little outlet baffle. We wanted to give us a bit more settling zone and a bit more space in the sump. So we've developed this low profile that expands right across the catch basin. It has the same open area at the bottom, so it can convey flow. And in fact, because of the geometry of this baffle, we're finding a lot less turbulent flow, as I said, coming out of the outlet. Here's a quick little picture of it. And also the next thing that we've been actually trialing for a very long time in Canada, but we're ready now to roll it out, is the litter trap deep basket. Now, this is 50% deeper. It has greater screen area. And 50% more storage volume. So a normal litter trap has around 40 odd litres. This is approaching 70 litres of storage. That's an empty basket. We find the flow rate jumps up. This is the trash flow rate, because flow through the screen is not only dependent on screen area, but it's also dependent on the driving head. The screen at the bottom will convey more flow than the screen at the top, because it has more pressure from the water driving head on top. So we have quite an increased flow through the system, but the bypass is still the same. The bypass at the top of the basket is still the same, so it's consistent. This is back in late September when I was at last in Ontario, and this is one that's been in the ground for 6.5 years. So we pulled it out and had a look. This is in Richmond Hill. They've been piloting some litter traps for many, many years now in a leafy suburb, and they really like the deep one. They're only maintaining these systems once a year, even despite the heavy leaf fall, and that extra capacity really helps. Leaves, after a while, tend to compost and crush down, and that's another little side study we're doing. We're trying to quantify how much phosphorus we're capturing, and when it's breaking down into compost, are we losing much? It is held reasonably dry. It's not held in water like other treatment devices such as an OGS. Just take a mouthful of water, thank you. So now on to another field study. Now, back in 2021, the TRCA, the Toronto Regional Conservation and Authority, approached us and say, look, we're doing a field trial looking at pre-treatment interventions for doing tree cells or LIDs. And this is a site in Etobicoke, Toronto, or Greater Toronto. And these, you could maybe just see there's a couple of little catch basins in front of these trees. Couple of years study, they not only installed EnviroBasin, they put some other products in there. We had to retrofit the EnviroBasin into this. It wasn't ideal, as I'll show you in the photos. It took us quite a while to retrofit it, but we got it in there, and it showed basically if you pre-treat the road runoff in the catch basin, it's really good for protecting the trees. It stops a lot of sediment going in. They didn't cause any hydraulic issues. That sediment and trash and debris would have ended up inside the tree cells, reducing their ability to get more water and reducing their ability to serve their purpose. They're being installed to reduce runoff, so they need water going to the roots. They were easy to maintain. The ops crew from Toronto City didn't seem to have any problem with maintaining them. And yeah, over 2 years, they were really reliable and caused no flooding. So here's some pictures of our wood stall there. It's important to note that the TRCA didn't really measure the leaves that were being caught. They just measured the amount of sediment in the sump. And as I said, it was hard to retrofit this. This is a different sort of catch basin grate. It was also really shallow. So it created some problems, which kind of led us to going, well, we need to actually produce a special configuration for street trees or for rain gardens, because they will be very shallow. We need to bring the water in really high. So that led to this next innovation, the LID EnviroBasin. Now this is available now in design phase. We actually put a few of these in anyway already, just by modifying. And it is a standard EnviroBasin, but everything is brought right up to the top, so we can have the minimum depth to invert as possible, so we can feed it into the top of the tree cell. We've done a bit of engineering on the type of catch basin we're going to need, because we're trying to bring it up as high as possible. There is extra reinforcing in this piece here. And also too, we're trying to pull the litter trap over a bit slightly. So this is where the low profile baffle also came in, so that we can squeeze the litter trap in. It also ends up with a deeper sump, which is definitely beneficial for maintenance frequency. The deeper the sump is, the less maintenance you have to do, or less often. And here it is. For a rain garden, we've done a few of these in New Zealand so far. And here's basically we're putting the whole litter trap right up and underneath the grate and frame. And here's some going off to a project in Brampton, a roadside project. These were to tree cells, not to rain, but you can see how high it is. And here's where the extra reinforcing is going in the catch basin, so it doesn't get crushed as a car drives over the curb or something. Now, lastly, is our new innovation called TrenchPod. Now, this has come out of a need in California where you have to treat every drain, and quite often they use trench drains in loading docks or in large car parks. So we've developed this product called the TrenchPod. It sits inside the trench drain and filters the water. We can see this long tube, it's zipping past, water goes in that tube and then out the outlet and into the dropper or into something else. Now, this is causing a bit of flow control. What we're doing is we're storing water up in the trench, and it's reducing the flow here. So we're really exploring this concept to see if we can provide upstream detention, and I'll explain that a bit more as we move on. So here's a video of the TrenchPod. This is what it looks like. It can be retrofitted into any trench. Goes in, and goes the filter sock. It's really long, so it doesn't clog up. And when it rains, the water's raining, water flows into the trench drain with all leaves and plastic pellets and cigarette butts and filters inward into the tube. Sorry, my rendering didn't get done in time, so it's a bit fuzzy. And then comes through and discharges into the dropper. So really effective. It will require maintenance. You can't restrict the flow out there and not have settling of sediment. In fact, this is what led us to think, well, this could be a really good way of providing some extra treatment. Trench drains are already notorious for clogging up. But if you think about the fact that these will capture material and clog up and design them with sufficient capacity and good access, it won't be not a problem to maintain. Those backpack vacuum cleaners are quite commonplace. The small little street sweeper trucks are easy to maintain trench drains. And in fact, the small little roadside, curbside street sweepers trucks often are being used in the city of Barrie to maintain all their litter traps. So this is an innovative and new way to provide detention upstream of the EnviroBasin. Now, this can have served 2 points. This can help us lower the flow to maybe half a litre a second, so we can get into the 60% removal phase range. It also would mean we can maybe treat larger areas with just one EnviroBasin and one trench drain. It also means we can have more attenuation or flood control upstream of the EnviroBasin, as all this area can store water. So this is a really innovative concept. We haven't put one in yet, but we'd really be interested if any of you engineers out there would like to explore this a bit more. The individual products are available, and we can work with you on a design that will attenuate some of the flow upstream of the EnviroBasin to get higher removal and capture more flow. Now, a little bit of bonus content. When I was out there in September and October, I had the privilege of seeing maintenance on some of the first EnviroBasins we saw at the City of London. And this is a few years old now, but if I click this video, oops. Oh, don't do this to me. Sorry. Here we go. Sorry about that. So this is on Colonel Talbot. There were construction going on, and this has led us to thinking maybe we need a stainless steel flange. The crews at the City of London have been awesome. They've really taken on cleaning different stormwater management assets, and they've modified their Vector truck a little bit to be able to easily get in there and not do any damage to the system. You can see them getting in there with the Vector trucks, vectoring up all that sediment, looking pretty good. Slightly fast speed, but it's kind of like real time, not really. It's just a little bit fast. And then they cleaning out the top. Now, what we also do see with the litter trap is that you can get a bit of organic material sticking to the cage and stuff. This does fall off over time, or in the maintenance process, you can just give it a bit of a whack with your lifting pole, and that just makes all the organic material that might be stuck to the side just fall off really easily. It doesn't jam into the basket, it just sticks occasionally on the top, and that really depends on how much organic material there is. And she is just vectoring up that there now. So all in all, it took about 5 minutes. They had, because it was a busy intersection, they had another traffic control truck behind. It was a rolling stoppage. It wasn't a road closure. Because it was only 5 minutes, it was causing minimal disturbance to the traffic. And they did it at 10 o'clock in the morning, so it wasn't even a night shift job. So maintenance was really easy. So that's it. That's our summary of the 2025 work that EnviroPod has been doing. Happy to dive more deeply, or Barry is happy to dive into those on one-on-ones or consultancy lunch and learns if you want to learn some more stuff. But yeah, right now, we'll open it up for questions. I can turn my screen off. Somewhere. Stop sharing. There you go. Over to you, Barry.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate being brought up to speed with all the new stuff. I neglected to mention in the beginning that we're recording this so that we can share the video later on with others, but don't let that stop you from asking any questions if you'd like to.
A few there. Yeah, I think Terry's asking, can we remove the EnviroBasin Air for access to the bottom of the catch basin manhole? Yes, yeah. The steel plate that sits under the grate and frame, that stays in there, but the actual stainless steel catch basin that squeezes between the cast iron lugs and goes down, and you can remove it straight out. I recommend vectoring it out because it'll be pretty heavy. But if it was vectored out first, two people could lift the whole EnviroBasin Air out and then climb in the hole and get down. What else do we have? Can we add the air unit into an existing manhole with a standard circular 600 diameter opening? Yes. The system has been designed to be retrofitted. You will need to remove the grate and frame. So that will mean cutting the asphalt and breaking that out, and then taking the frame away, and then putting in the plate, the frame back down, and then dropping the EnviroBasin Air down through. I know that catch basins get repaired quite often in the spring from snowplow damage, etc. There's a number of small contractors that specialize in this, or any major contractor should be able to cut the asphalt and remove the grate and frame. Is there any more questions in the chat? It's just Nicola. Is there any more you can?
Yeah, we do. We've got one here from Jeff Graham, and it says, can you add the air unit into an existing manhole with a standard circular 600 millimeter diameter?
Yes, that's what I was just saying. You have to cut the asphalt and remove the grate and frame. And then you can put in the stainless steel plate, and then the grate and frame come back on. If I open up the presentation again, I'll go to the drawing that shows how it's installed. Here we go. So here's your standard manhole. This is a standard 600 diameter square catch basin lid. Here's, you can see just here, the plate sits under the frame, and then the stainless steel box slides in between. And here's the low profile outlet, and the little trap's installed. There's another bypass in here too, so the whole system can bypass if it gets overloaded. And obviously we've done the structural analysis so that the whole stainless steel catch basin unit can be full with sediment, so it won't fall. That's the worst nightmare. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm struggling with the. No other questions. Oh.
Well, in that case, we thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule. And
Sorry, we just got one more question.
Go ahead.
We just got a question here from Brian. Will information on the LID specific EnviroPod be available on the website soon?
Sure, but if you approach us with a design or something, yes, but we'll get the standard details up on the website so you can work with them. We've really tried to raise the outlet as much as we can, and that's almost like a maximum height. Any more, if you can lower it a little bit better, it's all helps with hydraulics and flows and everything, but but we've raised it as much as we can as for these, into the curb sort of solution, LID solutions. Cool. But yeah, we'll send out a follow-up, maybe even an information pack with a couple of drawings for that to help you all.
Terry also asked a question around hydrocarbons. Do you use oil absorbent pads in the EnviroBasin as a standard, or is that an option typically, and how often do they need to be replaced?
Yeah. So, yeah, we undertook the OGE, the ETV oil and ETV test. We didn't quite meet the threshold because it's our retention test. So we've added these absorbent pads. They're made out of lava rock, which is a basaltic rock. We call it LavaZorb. We've had one outside our factory here in New Zealand for over 2 years, and it hasn't needed replacing. It obviously does. It depends on the loading rate, but at least 1 year we're finding in the field. So a lot of this, a highly trafficked road will have more sediment, more oily sediment. So we're probably looking at 1 year maintenance around those. They're relatively cheap. I think about $30. But yeah, they can last on a lower loading site like a car park 2-3 years easy. We intend to be testing that soon to somehow get some ETV credit on that as well, because the ETV test is not really a removal test. It's more of a retention test or a scour test where you fill up the device with these plastic beads that represent oil, free oil, like 40-20 diesel motor oil, and then you see if it's resuspension and throw it out. Now, a lot of the oil you actually see is a lot finer than that, or lighter than that, less dense than that, and so this will be a good way of actually looking at its removal rate rather than it's just if it's capturing a spill or something like that. So that'll be in next year's FutureFlow.
And then we just have one final question from David. He said, for the extra size basket, so the litter trap deep, do you need to reinforce the mounting bracket? If it was to fill with sediment, that would be very heavy.
Yes, that's all part of it. Yeah, see, I'll just jump back to that. That is a good point, and I was rushing through, so I will talk to some of that right now. If I share this, go back to this. So what's different about the deep basket? It has the stainless steel frame rod that goes around, and that actually threads through the battens. Now, the battens is a patented feature of the litter trap. The battens stop the basket bulging, so it can be lightweight, strong, and still hand maintainable. Now, obviously, we've done load testing on this. We've filled them up for rocks. These rods come right through and are anchored to the top and to the lifting points as well. So you lift the device out of the catch basin via these rods here. Now, it can get very heavy. It is really Vector only. I pulled this one out, but if you've met me, I'm a rather big guy. It wasn't that bad. I would have said it was about 20 kilos. I have these lifting hooks to help me lift out by hand. But yes, if you turned up and it looked like that unit in London, it's a Vector clean. You should not try to lift that out by yourself. You won't be able to. So we've loaded these up with rocks, with sand, and left them outside our warehouse for over a year just to check creep and see over time whether it would fail. And we actually were using the forklift to lift them in and out. So it does stand the test of time. As I said, this one, 7 years old, been lifted in and out, been vectored, and still working nicely. Yeah. Shall we Hope to see you all soon. If there's no more questions.
Well, thanks again, Mike, and thanks everybody for attending. If you have any questions or you want to pursue any of these new innovative ideas, just get a hold of us. We always answer the phone, so we look forward to talking to you all soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon. Bye.